All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candace Smiley. Here we talk about trusting the niggle and telling the truth. Now, my guest today is a wonderful human being by the name of Joel. Joel is an incredible gentleman who I was introduced through the Apex Masculinity podcast. Now, he will hear me talk a little bit about that as we get the podcast kicked off, but I will have some links down there below. We're going to be talking all about the Oola Program, which is a coaching program that I recently stumbled across by listening to other people's podcasts. And Joel and I go through sort of the three key points in their program, the 7 Fs, the Oola blockers, and the Oola accelerators. Now, this is going to be a podcast for somebody who really wants 2022 to be a different year. We are not going through another goal setting podcast. We are not going to be doing that, but we're really going to be talking about briefly the 7 different areas of your life that likely you are wanting to have a different change in. We're going to be talking briefly about the accelerators and the blockers. And the reason for this is going to be a podcast. Grab your pen, grab your paper, because we're going to be giving you some nuggets and some tips and tools. And if nothing else, if you just write down the 7 areas of your life that you could be working on, the blockers and the accelerators, and begin to think about them as we talk about them, I think it's going to have an impact, especially if you're someone who likes to journal. Of course, go check out the brand new journals. They're on my website, CandaceSmiley.com. We have some Trust the Niggle, Tell the Truth, branded journals, gratitude journals as well, 365-day gratitude journals to help you begin the practice of journaling, to help you begin your year with gratitude. Gratitude is one of my words for the year in 2022. And Joel and I actually talk about gratitude because their part of their program is talking about be grateful and have faith, which I think is awesome. And the second word for me this year, of course, is presence. And so I invite you to be very present with me on this podcast. This will certainly be one that you can have on. It's very upbeat and very much about getting you thinking. So if you are making your goals for the new year, if you were really thinking about, I'd like my 2022 to be different, this is definitely the podcast for you. All right, without any further ado, we'll get things started. Have a special guest with me. His name is Joel. You're probably going to be hearing a lot from Joel from me in this new year because Joel and I are doing a bit of coaching together. Now, Joel, I've been talking with a lot of my listeners about the fact that I'm a personal development junkie, and you and I have talked about that. Definitely. And if I look at how I've moved through things in my life or how I've gotten to a lot of places, it's because I've been so committed to digging out those parts of my life that are not epic. Right. And lately, to be honest, it feels like, another level, right? There's another devil. It's like, where's the sticky point hiding? And so I got introduced to you through the Apex Masculinity podcast, which I'm going to, give him a shout out because he's doing some really great work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, of course, you and I are now working together. I'm super stoked and happy to tell my listeners about that because I think that the program that you've aligned yourself with has just an incredible impact. Now, obviously, at time of recording, it's January. It's goal setting time. And while I don't necessarily feel like we need another goal setting podcast necessarily,
Sure.
And I know you've just done with Nick, so people can go check that out as well. But I also think that it's a lot about understanding different areas that are basically pre-programmed, right? Or stuff that we've just accepted. And now we're in autopilot mode, I guess. And I have found, even just when you introduce me, right, to say the 7 Fs and the accelerators and the blockers, and yes, listeners, we will go through what that means for you in a few minutes, just suddenly shining the light on different parts of my life that maybe I had put on autopilot has instantly made an impact. And I know I've shared this with you personally, but I think it's important to share with other people because I'm even surprised just at sort of the extra energy and vitality I have. And I know that for so many people, they've made goals before, they've made the resolutions before, but it doesn't stick, right? Beyond maybe writing it down.
Right.
And I think a
Maybe.
lot of, yeah, exactly,
Maybe
right?
they write it down.
If they write it down, right? And so we want to change, but the want doesn't always translate into how to. And I know that for me, distraction rules the day as a general rule. And so I want to make lots of change. I want to be a better person, but I don't always have the system to do so. So without any further ado, Joel, let's give my listeners sort of a background about who you are, how you came to discover this program. And then, of course, that can lead into, sharing how the program came to be. And then let's dive into those three different areas.
No, I love that approach actually, because so many personal development programs, which are incredible, like they're wonderful. I've taken a bunch of them. You've taken a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them focus on one or two aspects of real life, and they're pertinent and they're relevant. But we are a complete picture. And there are so many aspects that make us who we are, and everything affects everything. If we're having a crisis in our health, it usually means a crisis in our money. If we're having a toxic relationship issue, then it's robbing our time, and it could be robbing what we need to do for our health and our family relationships and our faith walk and so forth. And so, yeah, I love the Oola program so much because it's a picture of how real life works in all encompassing of who we are. And so how I ran across it is through my own, points of crisis in my own life. And my wife, probably 10, I guess now 12 years ago or so, she was struggling with her health, and her health just began a decline over that decade, to the point that the 2.5 to 3 years or so prior to us making a big change in our life, she was basically bedridden. And it was that apex moment, in our life where we said, okay, if we don't do something now, looking at the past 10 years and where that's gotten us, if we don't make a change to something, and we had no idea what at that point, but if we don't make a change to something, the next 10 years is probably not going to look so great. And so we did a lot of research, we did a lot of contemplation, a lot of prayer, and a lot of advice, counseling, seeking, and decided to take a big jump from one side of the country to the other side of the country, which was, we knew that part of our health issues were environmentally related. So we decided to change the environment completely and really set an intention to do life differently. And again, we didn't know what, we didn't have a structure around that at that point. And so moving out here, we sought different doctors, both traditional and non-traditional medicine doctors. We found different ways to change the environment of our home. We used to have literally, toxic plugins and scented candles that are carcinogenic, and we switched those out to essential oils and healthy foods, and just things like that, to change what is influencing us from the outside, but then there's also what is influencing us from the inside, right? So along that journey, I was reading a couple of books. One is Resilience. It's a fantastic book. It's a Navy SEAL that helps one of his fellow comrades come back from near suicide to having an abundant life. And at the same time, I was reading this book I'd come across called Oola, Finding Balance in an Unbalanced World. And I thought, well,
I love that, right?
That's me.
Hello.
I raised my hand twice. Mm-hmm. And they're both fantastic books, very similar along the lines of just how life works. And I read them both and I put them down. I thought, well, those are great books. And then COVID hit and all the things happened. Life changed for the globe. And I got to the point probably about 6 or 7 months after that, it was toward the end of the year. And I thought I need to just kind of look back at the year and figure out what's worked, what hasn't worked, my big wins, my massive face plops, and
Yep.
see what I can learn and see how I can do things differently. And so I thought I should pick up that Oola book again. And so I did. And one of the things, of course, you learn more the second time going through it anyway, right?
The fourth or the fifth.
Exactly. Yeah. So more things stuck. But one thing I didn't realize, this is just a brain fog moment, is in the back of the book, there's actually a section on how to apply it to your life.
Oh.
And I went, oh, it's not just theory. It's actual, tangible, something to do with your life. I thought, okay, well, I'll start to do that. And so I downloaded all the stuff and I started working through the workbooks and I joined their Facebook groups. And every step of the journey for me was, like you say, that next layer of onion peeling back, revealing the parts that you're vulnerable, revealing the parts that stink and make you cry.
Yep.
And and I really latched onto it. Like it impacted me personally in a way that I thought, this is a system that I can actually use to move my life forward in meaningful ways and impact those around me. And so that's when I decided to do the life coaching thing, but I didn't do it to start a business doing life coaching. I did it because I wanted to learn Oola at the deepest level that I could for myself. And that's at the level that you can teach it. And so as I did, I was like, man, this is so good. Like, this is really good. And it was helping me. And those that were around me were saying, I don't know what you're doing, but something's different, and keep it up, you know? And so that kind of parallels back to how Oola started in the beginning, which was these two guys, they're health practitioners, and Troy was mentoring Dave. And back up to when Troy was in the 11th grade, he thought, I'm going to live my life in a way that I will retire debt-free at the age of 40.
Love that.
And that was his goal. He failed, by the way.
Yes.
He was 42. Yeah. So
you know what?
I'll give him that. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna let that one pass.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, of course, he mentored Dave on these principles. Dave built incredibly successful businesses, had health and wellness clinics all over the place, had gyms, real estate, and then 2007, 2008 hit, and he lost everything.
I know.
He lost his businesses, lost his wife, lost his cars, like found himself in the ratty part of town, driving his mom's, beat up car. And in his words, it was because his head got too big for his body. He was, I'm doing it. I'm living the life. And he woke up one night, the police were bombarding the room next to him to arrest the person that was next to him. And it was just one of those, what in the world? How did I get from where I was to where I am now? And more importantly, what do I do about it?
What do I do about it? Yeah.
And that's when he called Troy, and Troy said, you know what to do. You obviously haven't been doing it. You haven't been applying these principles that we've talked about, that we used to meet once or twice a year to go over, to plan, to keep each other accountable. And you've obviously drifted from that. Not that unfortunate things can't happen to people who are enacting these principles. Of course they do. But where he was, it was partly because of what he chose not to do. And so Troy said, all right, well, it's time to get your butt in gear. And Dave said, okay, well, if this works for me, then I will make it my life's mission to share it with the world.
I really love, right? Because I think there's such a huge piece about, one of my favorite books, and I talk about it a lot on the podcast, is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And they say that, when you're making out your plan, or you're looking at your goals and you're wondering why they are working or not working, is it can't just be about you. It has to be about a way for you to give back and be in service. And when you have goals that are aligned like that have a bigger impact, it's amazing how they come true. So I just love how that is, woven into what the Oola guys are all about.
No, I can't agree more. Like there's a principle in Oola that when it's time to put your mask on your face, you need to put your mask on your face. The oxygen mask that drops down from the plane, and do that before you are going to go outside of yourself, because you can't fill up someone else's cup if yours is empty, right? And then there's a point where that's working for you, and it becomes an obligation to help someone that's around you.
Yep.
And that's a big principle in Oola.
Love it. So these guys started this program, and they've got like these 3 basic sections. At least is how it worked on my mind. And I've got mine on my little, duotang where I'm keeping all of the coaching notes. So let's go through first the 7 F's. And I think one of the things that made this make sense for me, of course, because I am so highly distracted, and I know this about myself. And so for me, it's about focus, right? When I can focus, and I think many of us are like this, we're saying yes to too many things that we don't really want to do because we don't know how to set boundaries. And that's a whole nother, conversation for you and I another day. But
Right.
when we went through these 7 F's, and of course, you guys have the wheel, right? And people can go and check out more about that, we're going to have a ton of links, including some free downloads in the comment section or in the show notes, wherever you're listening to the podcast. But the 7 F's are really about the different areas of your life. Then you can figure out, goals around them, and then to begin to figure out which ones you're going to focus on. And for me, that was like this light bulb went on. I was like, I need that. Because I feel like sometimes if I'm going after just one thing, other things suffer. But if it's all in the wheel and you've thought about it and you bring it all together, there's sort of a harmony that I think is really important, right? Because balance can often be very hard to achieve, but getting harmony, that's possible, right? That's lots of notes played at one time. So right. Let's go through the 7 F's for people. And of course, guys, grab your pen and paper, write this stuff down, because even just thinking about these things, whether you do some of the coaching or not, or download the free stuff, but just start thinking about these areas of your life, because I think that'll bring balance for people, whether they, choose to follow along anyway. So Joel, go for it.
Yeah, I love that. So Troy talks about an example of that time that maybe we were at the circus and the guy comes out and he's got, 7 different sticks and they're mounted in the table, and he takes a plate and he starts spinning one of the plates on one of the sticks. And then he takes another one and starts spinning that one. He takes a third one and starts spinning that one. And the first one's starting to slow down. And then he puts a fourth one on. And meanwhile, there's 2 of them that are slowing down. By the time he gets to the 5th or 6th, the first or second are about to fall off. And, you see that picture in your mind of just running around in circles, right? Trying to keep all these things spinning. And what you said there is perfect, that there's so much, if we don't have the self-awareness to know that that's what we're doing in these different areas of our life, absolutely something is going to suffer. And so the 7 F's are fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. And that kind of encompasses those subcategories a million times. You can divide things up and subdivide things up, but most abundance and most stress falls under one of those 7 categories.
And I think it's fairly easy when, people are listening to it, and if they were writing them down, right? Fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, fun, you can instantly tell, which ones you're going to prioritize more. I mean, that was very interesting for me, and I loved reading it because I think our values come out in those sorts of things. And, even you and I have chatted about, a couple of them now, and some of them I'm like, ooh, this is something I think about all the time. And it was interesting because, not always, is that a good thing? But I was talking to my partner about it. And he says, oh yeah, well, you're very motivated by that. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because I was excited about it. So clearly some of these things that I didn't realize were so prevalent in my life were trickling out. So, I mean, I love that you guys started with fitness, and that kind of made me feel like, for me, that's often sort of something that I do later on. It's an afterthought, although fitness is a huge part of my life, if I'm honest. But I love that that's where you guys started. And of course it's January, so at time of recording, and everybody and their dog is saying, I'm going to go lose some weight and get in shape. Right. But it's so true that even in the way that you guys decide to tackle these things, there's a reason behind it, which I absolutely love.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years, and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number 2 was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I'm speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candace, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show.
I absolutely love.
Yeah, there's each one of these pieces, if held in extreme unbalance, bleeds over to the others.
Mm-hmm.
And health, as part of the background from my wife's health issues and some other family members, like it takes your energy, it takes your mental energy, it takes your focus, it takes all of these things to make it happen. And that's all legitimate. Like, it's not their fault. This is just where it is. But it takes from all these other pieces in order to bolster that up and make that happen. And we know from about every personal development guru out there that fitness, if it's not taken seriously, will cause a crisis at some point in your life. You're either paying for it now or you're paying for it later, right? And if you do that, it changes your psychology, it changes your hormone balance, it changes the way your brain functions, it changes your perspective, it changes your focus, your ability to focus. And so it can help you to align the others if that one piece is put into place.
Love it. So stoked to be going through, those with you. And then when we started talking about the blockers and the accelerators, that's when it started to get really real for me. And so I want us to go through the blockers first, because I think we're often much better at knowing where we're failing or falling apart. And I think what was fun about these is they feel very subconscious. Like when I'm looking at them, there's, I'll let you go through them, but they sort of are like the stuff that's playing in the background that you may or may not be aware of. And just coming to awareness, and we've heard this before, if you're anybody who's done any kind of personal development, just becoming aware of these things is often enough to begin to create change, because it's the stuff that we're refusing to acknowledge, right? And we talk about that all the time on this podcast, right? Trust the niggle, tell the truth. So the Oola program really feels like it helps people to acknowledge that niggle that maybe they're ignoring, and then to tell themselves the truth about it in a way that's powerful. So let's go through the blockers for people, so that if we've maybe piqued their interest in terms of the areas, then we're gonna look at the things that maybe are causing some of that sabotage.
Yep, absolutely. So there's 7 blockers, there's 7 accelerators, just like there's 7 F's of Oola. And the blockers, like you, that's when it really got real for me. Like that's when it was, oh wow, that's hitting home, and it's something I should focus on and start to change about myself, right? So fear, guilt, anger, self-sabotage, laziness, envy, and focus or lack of focus. Focus can either be a positive thing or a negative thing, right? Depending on what you're hyper focusing on.
No, and I love that, because I think sometimes when we're doing the personal development, it all can almost become like toxic in terms of its focus on positivity. And I've often feel like I have seen the most success in the areas of my life that I have been really, really honest with myself about. So like take, for example, when I started running my own business, I was very excited to do it, right? I got excited about the opportunity. And my mother, bless her, said to me, "Don't you dare think about quitting for 1 year." And I felt like, uh-oh, maybe I'm not quite so excited anymore, right? Because she was like, you'll be successful, whatever you put your mind to, but you got to give yourself some time. And she said, treat it like you would, a job. Give it some energy, give it some focus, give it some weight. Your decision anyway. And that has always stood me in good stead. Or when I realized, I needed to leave my marriage, I remember being honest with myself. Like, this is going to be hard, and there's going to be some change, and it's not going to be fun. And I think being honest with myself about some of those things and other moments in my life similar to that is actually one of the reasons why I persevered through a lot of things. And so again, with this program, or with any program that someone's looking at for the new year, when they get real about like the real, the not so pretty part, I'm like, oh, this is good. So that makes me excited. Anyway.
Yeah, those blockers will absolutely shut you down. Absolutely shut you down. Usually what I find when I'm coaching clients is in an area that they're struggle, there is usually a dominant blocker. There might be 2 or 3 that are coming to play, but there's usually a dominant blocker. And like you said, by being self-aware, by understanding that that's a problem, you can't fix what you can't see about yourself, right? So just by seeing it, calling it out, recognizing that it's there, then you can start to deal with it. And what I also find is that usually one dominant accelerator is the key to getting through one of those blockers.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, so that's a great segue. Let's give the listeners the accelerators.
Sure.
And then I think they can start to see that. But first, let's go through the blockers just one more time. So somebody's writing them down, they can be, following along. And then let's lead straight into the accelerators.
Absolutely. So fear, guilt, anger, self-sabotage, laziness, envy, and focus or lack of focus. So the accelerators, what I love to do myself and love for my clients to do is to literally pick. A lot of people pick a word of the year. I have for this year. I have traditionally through the years, but I also want to pick an accelerator.
Oh,
and
okay.
When you pick one accelerator, that is going to be the thing that you're just kind of, it's that concept that's out there that begins to just nick at you a little bit, just kind of tap you on the shoulder just a little bit and remind you, is this what you're doing? Is this in alignment with what you said you're going to focus on for the year?
Right.
So the accelerators are gratitude, love, discipline, integrity, passion, humility, and wisdom.
I saw those and I just fell in love because there are some of my favorite words
Yes.
on this. And I mean, I
Yes.
have done a values exercise and I have, I've done podcasts on how people can do that. So if you're somebody who, wants to get more clear on your values, go scroll back through, or we'll have a link for those in the show notes. But some of the words that are on my values page are love, integrity. So I was like, ooh. And I love the word humility because I read a book by Kevin Hall, who wrote about 5 major words and like just the etymology of them. And I've always been fascinated with words. People know that about me. But humility literally comes from the word that is like deep black earth. It's like a rich, moist soil. And I've always thought that was amazing because that's exactly where you want to plant a seed, right? Seeds of greatness usually come from the deep, the dark, and so humility is that. And then, of course, one of my favorite words is wisdom. Wisdom, I think, is just magic. I mean, I think wisdom is something you get after you've had your teeth kicked in a few times. And so typically, if somebody has wisdom, there's a story there.
Right.
But again, this kind of feels like it's sort of wrapped up life. Then, of course, passion actually means suffering. There's that, and we often do suffer for our passions. And so knowing what we're passionate about, kind of sets us up for, the long haul and that kind of thing. So what is your word for the year? Would you share that with people?
Yeah, absolutely. My word for the year is impact.
Ooh, that's a good word.
And I've chosen that because this year, it was going to be growth. It was going to be my word of the year. And we went to Oola, which is the annual conference that Oola has every December, the first weekend in December. And my dad and I went, and it was the first time I had been personally, the first time he had been. Oh. And it's two days of a deep dive with the Oola guys, going through all these principles, taking off our coach hat, taking off our parent hat, taking off our husband hat, taking off all of these hats, and just working on 2 days for this is my turn. This is my time. And let's deep dive into me and how I want to grow. And I had already picked growth for my 2022 year word of the year. And after going through some of those exercises, it kind of comes back around to the first part of our conversation, in that growth is a byproduct of impact. And so it switched for me. And I said, no, it's not growth that I want. It's impact that I want. And so that's part of me coming on the podcast today. It's just to reach a bigger audience. It's part of some of the other things that I'm doing, the articles and so forth, just to have a greater impact.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I'm all about, some of the words that sort of just, they're ongoing for me. Connection, collaboration, communication. I think those are really paramount to a life that is very, very full, at least for me. And whenever I come across, whether it's a book or a program or a person that I feel like is having an impact, especially a positive one on the world, and speaking out their truth and living in their truth, I think when somebody, and I guess I see this out of you, Joel, is that your life is in alignment and in total integrity. And I know how hard it is to get there. So when I read someone else and I'm like, oh, you're actually living your passion, right? You're humbly living your passion. You're actually doing the thing, and you're actually walking the talk and talking the walk. That always makes me go, okay, cool human being here. More people need to hang out with this person, because of course we know that you do become the sum of the people you spend the most time with, whether we want to admit that or not.
It's so true.
Right? It happens, people. It totally happens. I remember, Joel, the first time somebody said this to me and I counted my 5, and there was that one like niggling one that I was like, darn it, the 4 are great, but that one, it would happen to be a romantic partner at the time. So there was some significant impact, not so positive, for me deciding to really pay, right? I think for many people, if they're honest about who they're spending time with, there's often one or possibly more that they realize that life will be better if they let go of, and they haven't because of boundaries or, beliefs that maybe they're holding on to too tightly.
So a little Oola twist on that is, which we haven't gotten to yet, but as you're evaluating your inner circle, if you will, those that are close to you, and there is usually always one that has some negativity around them, or, and it could be out of a hardship. It could be something they're going through, but it's just this time in their life, right? And if you're going around your inner circle and you're looking at that going, wow, like every one of them, they're fantastic. That negative person might be you.
Woo. Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that. Oh no, you're right.
So there is that self-evaluation piece of how am I contributing? How am I showing up? And is it a positive?
Guys, this is why I wanted to
impact?
share Joel with you. Wow. How am I contributing?
Do you have a word of the year?
I do. I've been in love with the word gratitude for a couple of years now. And so I put it back up on there, especially now that I'm, starting off the year working with Oola, because the Oola guys, of course, say, was it stay grateful, have faith?
Be grateful, have faith. Yeah.
Be grateful, have faith. And I've been thinking a lot about that because I heard one time that gratitude brings you closer to the heart of God. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And there are times in my life when I was just so stinking grateful, and it seemed like more good came from that. And if I'm honest, when I was looking through some of the things that didn't go well in my life, I was always looking for something, the silver lining or something like that. And so I guess I want to focus a little more, and have wanted to focus a little more in the last few years on being grateful for all things, so that I can move quicker through the negative and stay longer in the positive moments, right? Because most of life is very boring. But you can find so much gratitude.
That was my word last year.
That's awesome. And then,
the story behind be grateful, have faith?
I'd love for you to tell me. Go for it.
I will not do this story justice. Like, there's no possible way anybody can do this story but Dave himself, Dr. Dave Braun, the Oola seeker. But I will share the story as best I can. Dave has a sister, has two sisters, and his nephew, Jared, was, a bountiful teenager. I mean, he was athletic, into all the sports, really doing amazing, doing great in school, and everything was going great. He was on his way to possibly getting scholarships as he exited high school and so forth. And one day his sister called him up. And this was during the time, by the way, that Dave had lost everything. And so he's trying to rebuild his life. And usually he would call his sister up and, everything sucks right now. Like, it's just awful. And just, kind of go through this grumbling and complaining mode of, this is where I am in life. And this is just really horrible and so forth. And it was. And he picked up the phone. He was driving his car. He picked up the phone and could tell that she was in tears. And so he pulled his car over and he said, no matter what's going on, I'm here for you, talk to me. So back up, whenever he would call his sister would end the phone call saying, be grateful and have faith.
Right.
And it was just her way of sowing into positivity into him. And so his sister says, Jared has cancer. And it's not looking good. We don't know what it means. We don't know anything, but it's not good. And so they had this short conversation. At the end of it, he said, be grateful and have faith. Hung up the phone and just beat himself up over it, saying, how could I tell someone who just found out their kid has cancer to be grateful? Like, that was the dumbest thing I could possibly say. The next time they talked, he apologized to her and he said, I'm sorry for saying that. That was insensitive of me. And she said, no, it's actually what I needed to hear. I needed to hear, find something to be grateful for, regardless of what your circumstances are. Grateful in all things. And so she said, I want you to say that to me. As we end the conversation, tell me, be grateful and have faith. And they went through this. Jared, he had several treatments for his cancer. He wound up getting better. And life was great. He's back. I believe at that point in time, he was dating and, just loving life again. And then, unfortunately, because of the amount of cancer treatments, he got some sort of very rare bone disease. And I don't remember what it is, but it was a result of the intensity of the cancer treatments. And so she called him up and, this is going on with Jared again. And they ended that conversation and he said, do you want me to end the conversation this way? And she said, yeah, I do. Okay, well, let's do that then. Fast forward, and I won't take too long on this, but he went to go see Jared in the hospital just a few weeks, I believe, before Christmas. And as he left, he was driving. They were supposed to fly and meet him at his parents' house, I believe. And his sister called and said there was a complication and we couldn't get on the plane. We had to go back to the hospital, and Jared passed away. And he was just in tears, of course, and just didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. She said, we're going to take care of things here. We'll meet you back at the house. And so it was several hours drive with his kids, driving to the house. And he gets there. His sister's already there. And she greets him and says, I want to show you something. It's a journal that Jared kept during this process. And Dave's immediate thought was, here's a kid that was living life and enjoying life to the fullest, hit this downturn, came out of it, and then hit another one that completely wrecked his life, completely changed everything. It's probably going to be a pretty negative journal. For most teenagers, it would be. For most adults, it would be. And he's reading this journal, and he gets toward the middle end of it. And Jared says, thank you, God, for giving me cancer so my parents didn't have to go through that. Thank you, God, for giving me cancer so my cousins didn't have to go through that. And that's Dave's kids. Thank you, God, for giving me cancer so I can show what it means to be grateful. And that story is why Oola exists today. And that's why the slogan is be grateful, have faith, go get your Oola life.
I mean, I have the pleasure of listening to, their coaching videos in the coaching program, and they end every single video, be grateful, have faith. And it's really been on my mind. And one of the things, from gratitude this year is an extension of it. So like I had a word sort of picked out and then it grew from there, which I think is maybe common for a lot of us, right? When we really start to dive into it. But the word presence has come up, right? To be present with whatever's going on. And I mean, that's coming up for me lately because, of course, I got, a new baby, right? And so they change so fast. And so it's a pretty good reminder,
Yes.
stay present. But also realizing that, and as much as I typically want everything right now, right? Like you and I were talking before the call, I have a tendency to hurry things along. And I've really come to realize, whether it's in dealing with good things or bad things or whatever I would, energy I would apply to those things, it's only in the present moment that I have any sort of kind of power, right? So whether it's, and I mean, right now the world's been kind of crazy, and a lot of people are dealing with a lot of negative emotions and so many things. I mean, how fitting is it that there's a program like Oola out right now for people that maybe have lost jobs or had things change, or lost people that they loved and cared about, that this can be sort of that reset button for what does my life look like now? I know it certainly was for me, right? The way my life looked 2 years ago is not how it looks, now. And for the most part, for me, thankfully, gratefully, it looks really great. But I know not everybody's that way. So, with that whole idea, be grateful, have faith. Is there anything we can leave the listeners with as we, wrap up? Obviously, listeners, we will be having Joel back to talk through each of those different pieces we touched on today. Of course, there will be a free download for you, which is basically the Oola Planner. It is awesome, guys. I have it on my computer. And even though I'm actually doing the program, I'm going through that book as well, and have shared it just because it's so good to think about some of these things. Even if that's all you do with it, thinking about it will unconsciously, surprisingly, for you, for me, bring on more change than I think we really realize. And so anyway, Joel, I just want to, pass the, baton back over to you and say, hey, is there anything else we can leave people with as we wrap this one up before we bring you back?
And thank you for that. I would say there's two things. One is passion is one of those accelerators that can trump any blocker. Like if you find something you're passionate about, that's the thing that's going to wake you up in the morning. That's the thing that's going to maybe keep you up at night because you're so excited for the next day.
Yeah.
But passion is one that we don't always think about. And that goes back to, who are you at your core?
Mhm.
Not what other people told you should be, not what other people spoke over you that you believed, not when you were a child and someone told you weren't going to make anything out of your life, but who are you at your core? And I would say, find that. Like to your listeners, to myself, to those within earshot, like find who you are at your core and move your life toward your purpose. So many people are seeking happiness, and happiness is fleeting. Find your purpose and true joy will come. And in that, embrace gratitude. Embrace it, embrace it, embrace it. It will change your life.
Mic drop. I couldn't agree more, Joel. So I would want to say a big, huge thank you. I am very grateful that we could come together in this way. I'm grateful that we get a chance to work together and share this. Just, I mean, thinking about these things is game changing,
Yeah.
and choosing to focus on them for a season, whether it's through coaching or the online or whatever it is, also life changing. So again, listeners, I'm going to have all of the links below. So you can reach out to Joel directly and get more information on the Oola program. Maybe it's just going back through to, we will make sure we list out each of the blockers and the accelerators and the 7Fs. So if nothing else, you can begin to think about these things in your own life and begin to make the change. So Joel, again, thanks for coming on as my guest.
It's
And
my
to the rest of
pleasure.
you, oh, absolutely. To the rest of you, we will catch you on the flip side.
Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that over had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee, but I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's MODERE, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen.